New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
Welcome to Diva Talk. We are broadcasting live on Facebook tonight. Hold on, mute my iPad. We are broadcasting live on Facebook tonight, as well as live on the Zoom network. So welcome. So we are going to do a couple of things tonight. I want to talk about, obviously, technology, but specifically, I want to talk about email questions and issues that a few of my clients have been experiencing. And then I would like to dive into questions. I've lined up some questions to answer for you from people who can't actually make it live tonight, so I'll be going over those. And if any of you join us live on Facebook tonight, then feel free to type your questions into the chat area. I'll be taking a look at that. I've got my iPad right over here to the left of me, and I'll be able to kind of monitor that and answer whatever questions you might have. So let's dive in. I'm really looking forward to this. So I have experienced a couple of issues lately with clients who are struggling a little bit with business email. So I wanted to go into the structure of business email and what the options are so that everybody kind of understands how it all operates. So traditionally, back in the day, when we first discovered email and first started using email, we only had one piece of technology in which to actually structure our email, and that was POP technology. POP stands for Post Office Protocol, and it was actually called POP3, but I'm just going to call it POP. And what POP does is it allows you to configure your Outlook client to go out to your email server and pick up your email, bring it into your Outlook client or email client, whether that be Outlook, Thunderbird. Oh, there used to be Windows Live Mail. I'm not sure what was before that, but there have been a whole host of email clients you could use, Outlook being the most popular one. Outlook Express, back in the day, used to come free with your Windows computers. But so it brings your email into your email client, and you manage it all from your computer. All your email is stored on your computer. You had to make special provisions to back up that email, because if your computer crashed, you would then lose your email if it wasn't backed up. So that is the POP protocol. The other way you could have gotten your mail back in the day was just to simply log into the email provider's website. And I'm going to abbreviate that to webmail. This was all back before there was any such thing as smartphones or tablets, and we weren't wandering around with all these devices in our hands, and we weren't tied to a box, super glued to our hand. We only were able to check our email on our computer. So, and our own computer, because we couldn't check it on anybody else's unless we used webmail. So that's POP, and that technology goes back to, I'd say, the 90s. I'm fuzzy on exactly when all that came about, but probably back in that century, back in the last century, we will say. So that's POP. And then when we started getting these types of devices, they came up with the second protocol called IMAP, IMAP. And what IMAP allowed you to do was to be able to sync your email with the email server. So I can configure my Outlook client or my email client as an IMAP protocol, and it would go out to the email server, and I'm just going to use Comcast as an example. So it would go out to Comcast.net, and it would read the email in your Comcast account. It would sync it with your Outlook software, and if you deleted an email from Outlook, it deleted it from the email server. So it was a sync back and forth, so that your Outlook client and the Comcast website were in sync at all times. If you created a folder in your Outlook to store client email, maybe you had a folder for each client, then it would also replicate that folder on the Comcast website, and so you could log into your webmail on Comcast and see exactly what was happening in your Outlook. So it's a two-way sync between the two. Now, IMAP isn't without its issues. If you get your mailbox to such a size where you've got several gigabytes worth of data in the mailbox, then, hi Beth, nice to see you, thanks for joining us. So if you get several gigabytes worth of data in your email box, then that syncing is going to start to lag, especially if you have an internet connection between your computer and the internet that is a small pipeline. Then the syncing is going to lag, and it's not going to be real time or up to date. I have seen many times where clients have had a very small internet line, and their syncing has actually created all sorts of duplicate emails. Had that occur just in the past year. There are some places that just can't get a fast internet line. So that is the IMAP protocol. Now, somewhere along the line, Microsoft created their business class, what they call Exchange server. And the Exchange server started out as, if you wanted Exchange, you would buy this big beefy server for your office. It would cost thousands of dollars for the server and the hardware. And you would get that configured. You'd have to have somebody knowledgeable to configure that for you and run it. I used to run an Exchange server back in the day. And it was a very reliable platform for corporate email. It also allowed you to share contacts and calendars and resources such as meeting rooms, conference rooms, excuse me, and very reliable. And then, of course, the internet came into play in a big way, and we started seeing companies that popped up that their business was offering Exchange email to clients. So, and that is what I subscribe to now in the form of Office 365, but you can also get simply just Exchange. And extremely reliable in the sync process. Even if you have a smaller internet line, very reliable in the sync process. So what happens on the Exchange server with your inbox and your folders is replicated in your Outlook. Now, so we've got POP, we've got IMAP, and we've got Exchange, which is the big gorilla package, the best of the best. With POP, since you're picking up your email from the email server and bringing it into Outlook, and you're managing it completely in Outlook, if you have any sort of spam filtering or junk mail filtering happening on your email server, that's not going to replicate itself in your Outlook client. So the only junk mail you'll have in your Outlook client is stuff that comes into your inbox that you mark as junk, and it goes into a junk mail folder on your computer. So that is not capable of replicating out to your other devices. Why would you want to use a POP type email account these days? Well, I have a couple of clients who do. They actually subscribe to Office 365, but what they really want to do is they share a couple of email boxes. So they want to be able to have that email come into their computer and various devices, various iPhones and iPads. Well, it can become really problematic because they want to be able to delete email from Outlook or delete email from an iPhone or an iPad and have it not affect the other devices. And really the only way you can do that is set it up as POP. However, when it comes to your junk mail or your spam filter, if you're running your main email server through an Exchange type server, that or an Office 365 type Exchange server, that has all that junk mail filtering on the server side, and it's going to filter it out, and that junk mail will never be seen on any of your devices, which can be a huge problem. If you're waiting for an email from a client and the server marks it as junk, it's going to appear as if it's never coming into any of your devices. Hey, Kim, nice to see you. So with that said, POP can be really problematic. I could see what the appeal would be, but you're much better off to be able to set up your devices on an Exchange type account. I happen to use a company called AppRiver, and back in the day, AppRiver would only offer Exchange services. They then kind of dived into spam filtering, which is awesome. They do a great job. Then they dived into Office 365 once Microsoft made that available to third-party vendors to start reselling. Office 365 is what I use for my company. I have several email accounts. Me and my assistant both have an email account there, and I have several shared mailboxes for various reasons. I have an info at, I have a help desk at, and then I have a couple of others for different things that just come into dummy email boxes, depending on the source of where I advertise those email addresses. So what I'm trying to get at is POP is old technology. If you can avoid that, please do, because it will create confusion. It will create cases where you think the email isn't working when it really is. It's just a matter of understanding how it works. IMAP is great. Gmail uses the IMAP protocol. You really get into the Exchange type services when you have your own domain, like ComputerDiva.biz. Then you can go and you can register that domain, run it through an Exchange server, and get email at, Mary at ComputerDiva.biz, and so forth. So I hope that is clear for everybody and kind of clears up a little bit of confusion. If you can at all possible use an Exchange server, that really is the best. Then IMAP would be the second best, which is what you're going to be using for your Gmails, your Yahoos, your Comcast, sbcglobal.net. I mean, there's dozens of them out there that your internet service provider offers to you, and most of them are going away from POP. They just will not deal with that at all. Kelly says, can you talk about eClient? Maybe clarify that a little bit, Kelly. Maybe you can put another comment in there. I'm not sure what eClient is, but I'd be happy to talk about it. While we're waiting for that, Beth says, what are the best systems for scheduling meetings? Does everyone have the ability to use Google Calendar, or is there a professional calendar system that is better for business? Oh, there are so many calendaring systems. I'm glad you brought up that question, Beth. Thank you. Of course, Google Calendar is awesome for scheduling appointments. It's what I use in my business, and my Google Calendar is integrated with my website and my online appointment book, so that I can manage my Google Calendar on my computer up here. And it's when somebody goes to my website to make an appointment, they will see my available time. They can't see the details of any of my appointments, but they will be able to see what times are available, and they'll be able to schedule. my Google Calendar also integrates with my CRM, my client or my customer resource management software, and which makes it kind of awesome. But I deal strictly with Google. Now, there's all sorts of other email programs that you can use. I used to use one called Acuity, and I integrated that with my website as well. Very similar to what I've got on my website. And it actually integrated with Google. And you're going to find that most of these web-based calendar systems will integrate with Google. Now, if you have Office 365, it comes with built-in calendaring features. And, you know, Microsoft and Google have kind of been at odds with each other for years. And it's an on-again, off-again thing where your calendars will sync, they won't sync. Now, Exchange will sync with Outlook. It used to be for a while, Google Calendars would sync with Outlook, and then they didn't. And now I'm hearing rumors that, yeah, something has taken place to make them sync again. Some new product that Microsoft and Google has either come out with or is about to come out with. When it comes to the iOS products, your iPhones and your iPads, Office 365 syncs beautifully with those. It will also sync beautifully with your Outlook. There is iCloud for Windows that you install, and it will sync your iOS calendar with your Outlook. Really slick. I used to use that heavily, but now I'm pretty much all Google. So I think you're going to find the biggest flexibility with Google. Let's see. Kelly, EM Client is a full-featured email client with a modern and easy-to-use interface. EM Client also offers calendar, tasks, contacts, and chat. Curious about its functionality if you're familiar. You know, Kelly, I have never heard of it, so I'm going to have to look into that. But, you know, for those of you watching, Kelly is the technical brains behind this show, and she's really technical, so she's up on a lot of stuff that I'm not. So I'll have to look into that. Maybe we can have a chat about that in the next week or so. So Beth follows up with, can a client who uses Outlook for their calendar save the appointment to their calendar? Who uses Outlook to save the appointment to, do you mean to another calendar? So if they who uses Outlook for their calendar, save the appointment. Yeah, you can save it to an Exchange calendar. You could save it to an iOS calendar. And rumor has it that possibly now you can save it to your Google Calendar. So there's a lot of flexibility. I'm finding as time goes on, and these companies realize that, you know, there's plenty of fish in the sea for everybody. There's plenty of work out there. There's plenty of clients to go around for everybody. There's really no need to be super uber competitive, except, you know, Wall Street makes us be competitive, the large corporations anyway. I could give a rip about that. But, you know, from my perspective in my small business, there's plenty of work for everyone. So I don't feel I'm in competition with anyone. In fact, I've got a lot of peers out there who do exactly what I do, and we trade information, and we share how to do things, and we say, hey, did you hear about that? Hey, did you hear about that new tool? So there's plenty of fish to share between everybody. So, okay. So with that said, keep bringing your questions on. I am going to talk about a couple of other jobs I've had in the past week where there's information that I think everybody might be interested to hear, kind of little tidbits and gleams of information that you might be able to find useful. So one of the jobs I had this week, it actually started last week. I had a client who had a lot of malware on their system, and they called me out and had me clean it all up. And at the time I said, hey, you know, it looks like you're free Norton from Comcast isn't doing a very good job for your computer. We might want to consider replacing that. And I talked about my managed antivirus services, DivaCare Managed Antivirus. And the client said, yeah, great, let's go ahead and do DivaCare Lite in the managed antivirus, and let's get that ball rolling. So got his computer cleaned up, took off the Norton, put on the DivaCare Lite and the managed antivirus. Everybody was happy. The next day, I got a call from the client, and the client said, my computer is running really slow. And can you come out and take a look? And I said, well, I'd be happy to remote in. I have the ability, and I can remote in real quick. I said, I can't do it right now, but looks like I have a spot on my calendar for tomorrow, so let's set it up. So I did, and it turns out that it was more of an antivirus issue, where the DivaCare Managed Antivirus it's such a good antivirus package that it was blocking certain apps on Facebook from actually showing up on the screen. So when the client would go to these particular apps, they would see this cute little graphic on the screen. It would say, "Ah, snap, we can't load." And I knew right away it was the antivirus software blocking that app because it was probably trying to put malware on the system. So what I did to prove my point was I totally disabled the antivirus software. Then we went into those apps on Facebook, and they popped right up. I mean, there was no delay. There was no off-snap error message. So I said to the client, I said, I can easily whitelist the URL of this app in the antivirus software, but it kind of goes against the point of antivirus software. The reason it's being blocked from showing up in Facebook is because it's probably trying to put malware on your computer. And you need to know that if we unblock this website and you get malware on your computer, it's not a failure of DivaCare Managed Services. And the client understood that. He said, go ahead and whitelist, and we did. And client happy. The next day I get another call saying, this just isn't going to work. The computer's running too slow. I want to reverse everything. I want to get rid of DivaCare. I want to get rid of the managed antivirus. And it had absolutely nothing to do with DivaCare making the computer run slow. I just kind of want to reiterate that. It had everything to do with the fact that the DivaCare Managed Antivirus is such good antivirus software that it was blocking those sites from downloading malware onto his computer. So with that said, what you all need to know, I think the takeaway from this, it has nothing to do with DivaCare Managed Antivirus, but it has everything to do with Facebook. Those apps in Facebook, the games and the various apps that you go to, sometimes the surveys that you're taking, who were you in a past life, at what age will you be when you die, all those apps are basically trying to just gather personal information. They will, they'll be able to read your entire friends list. And in the case of these apps that we were having an issue with, I can pretty much guarantee that it's going to load malware onto the system. So I think my point here is try and stay away from a lot of those apps on Facebook, because they're not your friends and they will end up causing issues. And you can actually, there is a place where you can go into Facebook where if you've given access to a lot of those apps to your personal data, you can go into the settings of Facebook and take a look at the list of all those apps, and you can actually get rid of those one by one, which I highly recommend you do. So with that said, so to follow up on the story, I ended up reversing everything, and I took off the DivaCare Lite, I took off the managed antivirus, and took the client back to free Norton, from Comcast. I don't think it was a wise move, but that's what the client wanted to do. So that's what I did. So that concludes that story. I was really disappointed to lose a Diva Care client, but that's okay. That's okay. I have a feeling that it kind of would have been a maintenance headache for me. So if the client isn't happy, I certainly don't want them to do anything that they don't want to do. So what else did I do this week? Let's see, I'm looking at my calendar up here. There were a couple of other jobs. Oh, yesterday was fun. Yesterday, I went to see a client who has an iMac. And a couple of years ago, she had decided to install beta software, Mac OS beta software. Actually, I think it might have been OS X Yosemite beta software from a couple of years ago. And because she had beta software on her iMac, she couldn't progress to the next version of Mac OS. So, she's been living with this beta software for a couple of years now. So she finally pulled the trigger and said, hey, can you come out and deal with this for me? Help me deal with it. And what do we do to deal with it? And I said, well, the best thing we can do is we want to make sure your time machine backup is up to date. And then we'll wipe your computer clean. We'll just install a fresh copy of Mac OS Sierra, which is the latest version. And we'll put all your data back. We'll put all your apps back. And we'll be good to go. That was really a fun project because at the same time, we set up a NAS drive in her small home office. And that was a lot of fun. NAS drive is a networked attached storage device. And what it is, it's a small enclosure that holds 2 hard drives, minimum 2 hard drives. And there are NAS drives that can hold up to 16, 32 separate hard drives. And the one we installed yesterday had 2 hard drives stacked one on top of each other, and they mirror each other. And this woman is a professional photographer. So it was really important to her to be able to have those mirrored drives so that she had a couple of different backup sources for her photos. So we had Time Machine as the main backup source, or at least we will once we finish the project. Then we have the NAS drive as another backup storage device. And the nice thing about the NAS drive is if one of the drives goes bad, we pull it out, put in a new one, and it automatically mirrors the remaining drive, replicates the data from the remaining drive to the new drive. It's insurance for your data. And when you're talking about photos, especially when you're a professional photographer, it's really, really important to be able to have that security and that insurance. So that was fun. We still have a few things left to do there. In fact, I need to call her tomorrow and follow up. Let's see, what else? Of course, I've dealt with a lot of viruses. And most of the computers where I'm cleaning up viruses these days, I'm converting them to the Diva Care Managed Antivirus. The nice thing about the Diva Care Managed Antivirus is it also gives you protection against ransomware, which is pretty cool. Just taking a look at my time. Which is pretty cool. It's becoming a little bit more common for antivirus packages to have that protection, but that's only because of the recent wave of ransomware that's been going around. Let's see. Oh, today I did a really interesting job. I did a lot of stuff today in 3 hours for a brand new client. We installed a brand new iMac. We configured a new iPad, a new iPod, a new printer. We moved data from 2 old Windows computers onto the iMac. We set up the Time Machine backup. And I'm sure we did a few other things, but a lot of stuff in 3 hours. It was really fun. And if you hear whining in the background, that's my dog, but I'm not going to get up and let her in my office. She's just going to have to wait. So with that said, what's going on in our chat room here? We've got a couple of people in there. No new questions right now. Let's see. I've been setting up a lot of new computers lately. Maybe it's the time of year. I don't know. Maybe it's we're starting to roll into summer and people are realizing, well, one of the deals is there's a lot of people who are replacing their old Vista computers with brand new Windows 10 computers. Since Windows Vista is no longer supported by Microsoft, it's wide open and susceptible to viruses. So good to get rid of those and just buy new computers. So I've been setting up a lot of new computers for that. And I think a lot of people are kind of getting ready for the summer season. They don't want to deal with this during the summer. Maybe they're going to be vacationing, but they want to be ready for the fall. So setting up a lot of new technology. I had a client last week who called me and said I had set up a new computer for about 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, oh, my new computer is dragging. What can we do? What can we do? It's so slow. Well, I logged in and took a look at her email inbox that had like 25,000 items in the inbox. And I said, that's why it's dragging. And I gave her the homework of cleaning out her inbox. So she's using Outlook, the latest version, 2016. And so that will make your Outlook experience drag. You really need to keep those inboxes cleaned out. And it's hard. It is so hard to do. I know it's really difficult for me, and it's difficult for a lot of people. You just can't stay on top of it. What else? I think I had a really cool job last week. I went way up to the top of the mountain in Washougal and helped a client who had been traveling for several months, their family home, helped her get her little hotspot all set up so she can actually get on the internet. And we switched her from AOL to Gmail, which is really, really cool. I love seeing people come off of AOL. Speaking of, AOL has been purchased by Verizon. That's no secret. That's taken place in the last, couple of weeks or a month. Do not be surprised if Verizon kind of killed off the AOL brand. So if you're still out there using AOL, you really might want to think about moving to a different type of email, whether it be Comcast or Gmail. I really caution people against going with an email account with their internet provider, because you may not be with that internet provider forever. And the minute you change internet providers, you lose access. So, for instance, Comcast, if you go with a Comcast email account, you will eventually lose access to that if you switch over to CenturyLink. So I say go with somebody who's not tied to an ISP. Cool. So go with somebody who's not tied to an ISP like your Gmail. Gmail would be my choice. I have a couple of Gmail accounts as well. How many email accounts can one person have? Let's see. I think that's it for my interesting jobs that I've had in the past few weeks. So are there any other questions going on here in the chat room? We've got a couple of people in here. I don't see any other questions coming through. So I think with that said, for a Facebook Live broadcast, we've probably gotten to the point where we're overextending ourselves, and I have had such a good time, and I want to say thank you for participating. Thank you to the couple of you who threw questions out. I really appreciate it, and we plan to be back here again 2 weeks from tonight, which would be the 6th of July. We should be able to have some fresh topics for you, maybe talk about some new technologies. Oh, what I do want to share with you all, I finally bit the bullet, and I've been saying for 2 or 3 years now, ever since the Apple Watch came out, that I saw no reason to buy one. I have my Apple Watch. I bought it last Friday, and it's really a cool little device. I really don't notice that much that it's on my wrist. And the nice thing about it is, especially when I'm with a client, I can keep my phone on silent and yet still know by the vibration on my wrist whether a text message has come in or if a phone call is coming in. I can send the phone call to voicemail right from the watch, and I don't have to pick up the phone and make the client think that I'm not paying attention to them. I just bend my wrist a little and tap on the screen. I can, flip my wrist and it comes on, and if there's a text message there, I can read it. I really don't use it to respond to email or text messages. I haven't really learned the ins and outs of the watch yet. Although the cool thing that I did use this for last weekend, I had it less than 24 hours, and I went on a golf trip last Saturday, and I actually went with 52 other people. It was a mystery bus golf tour, and we got on a bus in Jansen Beach, which is right at the Oregon-Washington border in Oregon, and we headed across the river, and we immediately headed east. And once we got close to the golf course, they told us where we were going. Well, it was Orchard Hills Country Club, semi-private course. And so I planned ahead of time that morning before we left and got on the bus. I put the Golf Shot app on my iPhone and the watch. And the cool thing was I was able to, I hit my drive, and I'd go out in the fairway. And the pretty cool thing was with my drives this past weekend, a lot of them were out in the middle of the fairway. So I could walk up to my ball, I'd flip up my wrist, and it would tell me exactly how many yards my ball was from the hole. So then I could plan to use the appropriate clubs. So that was really awesome. The only caveat with that is that with the Golf Shot software, it actually uses the GPS in your iPhone to calculate the yardage and then shoot that over to your watch. So I had to make sure my iPhone was in my pocket instead of the golf cart, because if I parked the cart and then walked several yards to my ball, it would be inaccurate. But no big deal. I kept my phone in my pocket. So it did a stellar job. I didn't have to wait more than a second on flipping my wrist to see what the yardage was. So it was really kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else this does. Of course, there's I think it's the movement app or whatever. Anyway, the activity app. And it kind of tracks your activity, and it has certain bars in there that will tell you how much you've walked, how many steps you've taken during the day. It will actually buzz my wrist about once every hour and tell me, if I'm sitting at my desk, it's time to stand up and take 100 steps. So that's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to really using that a little bit more. So anyway, for those of you who have heard me say, I don't see any reason to have an Apple Watch, I finally got one and I'm really enjoying it. So glad I thought to talk about that. So anything else here? Nope, nothing else going on in the chat room. So with that said, I want to say a special thank you to Kelly Lair from New 72 Media, working behind the scenes to make this all possible. She is awesome. She makes it all happen flawlessly and seamlessly. So thank you very much, Kelly. And I will see you all again 2 weeks from tonight on July 6th. Have an awesome 4th of July Independence Day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot, everyone. Good night.